Welcome everybody to another webinar about everything related to apps. And this time we're going to talk about app marketing and to be more specific by using Facebook and Instagram. We got AJ from Appenue who is ready to share a lot of information. Plus, even if you don't believe anything he says, he has the data to back it up. This time we have a case study that can show you exactly that what he's talking about. You can really see the numbers that this really works. And what makes this webinar also very special is because Facebook and Instagram are two major platforms that are being used, but not everybody really knows the tips and tricks to use to really use it efficiently, like with a smaller budget, and to be also more time efficient so that you're not all day on it and you only get like one lead or something like that. So I'm Guillaume from CreateAppsHere, and here is AJ. AJ, take it away.
Oh, hey guys. So for the guys that didn't join us in the last webinar, which we held on the 2nd of August, we were talking about using different platforms and different techniques, hacks for indie developers. Everyone knows that indie developers are often overlooked when it comes to the whole segmentation on the app stores, whether it's Google Play, if it's iTunes, or if we're talking about secondary or tertiary stores such as Samsung Store, Baidu, and whichever. The main trouble that indie developers face is exposure, the lack of a structure when it comes to their marketing plans and their branding. And generally speaking, they're often overlooked. It's very hard for them to gain any upper hand unless they use some kind of viral performance, some kind of viral marketing options. And today we're going to talk about social media. We're going to talk about two main platforms. Last time we were talking about Twitter, LinkedIn, and whichever to gain some following and create some audience behind your app. Not all of them are relevant for indie developers, but indie developers should be using Facebook and Instagram most. The main reason is, first of all, Facebook and Instagram are being used by billions of people around the world. They're part of the same company. Instagram was acquired by Facebook around 2010 or 2012, something like that.
Something like that, yeah.
Something like that. And it is still, when it comes to growth, it's still the fastest growing social media platform out there. Once Facebook were able to just downgrade Snapchat, then it's Instagram everywhere. And millennials, which are, future audience for most indie apps out there, use Instagram immensely every day to promote themselves or promote their agendas. So if you're not there, you don't exist.
Yeah, and I think one thing that's very important for people to know is that it's not really rocket science, but it takes a while to wrap your head around it. And if you're just joining us, we're basically recapping what we talked about last time, August 2nd, and talking about why we felt like Instagram and Facebook were the main platforms that we wanted to dive into during this webinar, because those are the main channels that can be used, and they're at the top of everybody's list. So if somebody's maybe not on Facebook, they're on Instagram, or vice versa, or they're on both. So yeah, AJ, tell us about, first let's talk about the bad stuff that people usually do when they're getting into app marketing. Hey, I just launched an app and I want to market this app. What are the problems that you usually encounter at your clients when going into app marketing or using Facebook or Instagram?
Okay, so that's a great question. The main trouble is that many app developers either are not savvy enough about marketing or don't really know what marketing is. They think that the first thing they should be using is AdWords or Facebook ads to get people to download their app. But the trouble is that they don't get enough downloads and it becomes very expensive for one simple reason. They don't have a strong brand behind it. It doesn't matter if you're Ubisoft or if you're Epic Games or whichever. It doesn't matter if you're a large publisher, a well-known publisher. If you want to create a brand behind your app, you should, expose your app to as many people as possible, even before your beta stage. You can use tons of Facebook groups such as Indie Game Promo and similar groups on Facebook, and you should be doing that at least 2 to 3 months before you even launch your app. You create a brand behind it and you create a story behind it. You tell people what you did, what you're looking to do, and you ask for the feedback. That feedback should be used afterwards for the beta. When you go into beta stage, which is later on, whether it's a closed beta outside of Google Play or outside of iTunes, or if it's some kind of internal beta, it doesn't really matter what you're doing. You should first create a brand behind your brand. Once you create a brand, you create recognition and you create advocacy, because everyone is like rooting for you. You should do that on Facebook, as I said, on engagement groups, on Indie Games Promo or whichever, or Indie App Promo, or app development with Android Studio. It doesn't really matter which one. There are even ones on Slack. There's one called Gaming. There's a launch Slack group, which is great for launching and asking questions, feedback, whichever the case is, you should be going there. And you should post not just on Facebook, but on Instagram as well. You can do some data, you can do some content curation, as in, like taking the best performing post you see on Instagram, which is relevant for the hashtags you already found beforehand, and curate that and add your own stuff. Add your own stuff and naturally have people, go to your profile and click either on your Facebook page or your app page or whichever, and eventually you'll get people to sign up and download your app. But no one's going to do that before they know who you are. So you have to tell a story at least 2 to 3 months before you even launch your app, and even earlier. It really depends on the app, whether it's a game or if it's some kind of help app or whichever. If you want to launch something correctly, you should use Product Hunt, you should use Kickstarter, you should use Indiegogo, you should use Facebook, and you should use Instagram all the time. You should post every single day and curate content every day so people recognize who you are. This is called brand recognition. And this is the main problem that many app developers face, because they didn't create any kind of structure before they started launching their app, and they find themselves doing it after the app has already been launched. And then it doesn't look well because you've been on the store for 3 or 6 months and no one downloaded the app. So it's irrelevant, and you are not, you won't be trending with your app either.
Yeah. And I think one thing that I experienced myself is a lot of people don't really look at the difference between marketing and branding. That is one thing where the lines kind of get blurred. And talk a bit about establishing a bit your brand so that people kind of understand, oh, that's what he meant with branding. Because I think in the beginning, especially if it's your first app, what people don't understand is that it's a kind of touch and feel of, okay, what do people respond to within my story. So if you could dive into that a little bit.
Okay, if you could repeat the last sentence.
Basically, the difference between marketing and branding,
Oh,
and how people can kind of figure out what brand story, with what brand ID fits with their app the best.
okay. So many people usually confuse marketing with branding, or they think they are conjoined or something like that. It
Yeah.
goes this way: when you want to create a strong brand that sells, it goes branding, marketing, sales. Okay, so it's not the same thing. You should start off with branding. Branding is the identity of your brand. It's not just the name. It's not just the logo. It's the motto behind it. It's the story, the compelling story that you're telling. Storytelling is very important these days. These days, either you talk about the founders or you talk about the app itself, what it does and how it helps people, and you bring in testimonials from clients or even future prospects, and you ask for feedback from your community. You create a community behind your brand. I call it a value bonfire, because you get warm by sitting next to the value. If there isn't a value behind your brand, it's not going to sell, because people had enough of brands that, well, are not brands. They're just, they don't tell you any kind of compelling story. Nobody knows who the people behind that brand are. The content itself behind it is just lame. To in lack of a better word, it is lame. And
Yeah.
then and then you get to the point that your launch is just a failure and it's unsuccessful just because of that. You didn't create a compelling story behind it.
Yeah.
Marketing itself is how you transform that brand into something tangible for your clients. It's either the advertising or the content behind the brand. Beyond just the content, beyond just the branding. The branding content itself. There's the marketing content, which is download our app, sign up now, things like that. Those are clearly call to action. Those are calls to action naturally, but generally speaking, the brand is the exposure, it's the story behind everything, while marketing is how you want to transform that content and that brand into signups, clients, whichever. Sales is naturally when you need to talk to people and make sure that they pay, whether it's in-app purchases or anything else. That's the sales. But marketing is how you wrap it in a very nice wrapper for Christmas, that it looks really great, and you want to engage with the app. You want to engage with the brand itself.
Yeah, and I think one other thing, because it was a very valid point that you said, the engagement afterwards is very important. I think the engagement afterwards is very important, and it's something that developers or marketeers of these developers, they're missing that aspect. So they're kind of missing, hey, I'm going to market this app. I'll just push out content, and they're not talking to anybody that was even interested in the content. So they might have a good following, but nobody nobody knows anything else. And I think that is a very good point that you just made, like the whole aspect of, hey, this is our brand story. This is what we're about, and da da da. But engaging people, that part is kind of missed a bit, and understandable because people tend to. It's not always easy or comfortable to engage with people you don't know, but at the same time, you have to do it. So yeah.
One thing about it when it comes to content and when it comes to marketing, uh, about 3 months ago, I was in Antwerp for the Growth Conference, and
Hmm.
one of the people that, one of the keynote speakers was Josh Factor. He was talking about the skill sets that would be relevant in 20, 30 years time. And the one thing that was most important was copywriting. He said it doesn't really matter if you're a genius when it comes to like marketing in general, but it's important that you can tell a compelling story. A compelling story would be relevant in 20, 30 years time. Whether you use LinkedIn, which is a different approach, whether you use Facebook or Instagram, the content has to be engaging for the people. If engaging means that people like it, share it,
Hmm.
repost it, copy it. Once people copy your content, you know it's good.
Yeah. And
Again,
I think,
curation isn't copying. Curation isn't copying because you give that person credit for what that person wrote, but replicating content is completely different.
yeah, and I think that is like very, very good insight. And one other thing, because you mentioned LinkedIn.
Mm-hmm.
One thing that people have to realize, especially with regards to Facebook and Instagram, the many tools that you can use of these two platforms to really push out your content. So tell the lovely people, like on Instagram, which tools they can use to really market their app, because some people just stick to post on their feed. Others use the Instagram stories. Others also extend to highlighting their stories. So just talk, walk us through those tools.
Okay. So first of all, we were talking about manual tools. So the manual tools are, first of all, posting, whether it's a photo or some kind of GIF, or it could be video. Video is still relevant, especially on Instagram. People still engage with photos, so you don't have to just go video all the time. But GIF and photos are the most relevant. You can use Instagram stories, and you can highlight those stories so you can see it even after more than 24 hours time. The beauty of it, whether it's using stories or using IGTV, which I'll be going through
Yeah.
IGTV in a moment, is that people get notified. If they follow you, they get notified about your story. Now, not everyone is going to watch your story because they see stories all the time. On the other hand, if you use IGTV, which is Instagram's own version of YouTube, it has its advantages and disadvantages. We'll talk about the advantages and disadvantages in a moment. But if you use IGTV today, it's even better for engagement with people. And I'll explain. I'll just explain what IGTV is and how it's different than YouTube, and then
Hmm.
people will understand when it comes to engagement why it's even better than YouTube. So IGTV lets you upload videos up to 10 minutes, up to 10-minute long. So it's better than the regular stories or regular posts, which are just like one moment, like 1 minute. This is
Yeah.
10 minutes. So you can talk about your app for a longer duration of time. You can run webinars, you can run snippets, whichever it is. The beauty of it is that the disadvantage is that it's not YouTube. It's not as big as YouTube. not as many people are aware of it, and
Yeah.
people who don't really follow you wouldn't necessarily see your video in comparison with suggested pages that you see on YouTube. On the other hand, the people who do like your video can be seen and can be engaged with, which is the most amazing thing, because you know that people engaged with your video, you know that they like your content, because otherwise they wouldn't even like it. So you can contact them via a direct message and ask them, send them some kind of CTA, like sign up, download our game. If you want to learn something more, follow my feed on Facebook, on LinkedIn, whichever. So
Yeah.
when it comes to Instagram, we were talking about the manual stuff. For example, you can take a video and you can use apps such as InShot to create even, like a better looking post. So it's InShot is a type of video editor that you can add like stickers, and you can add text, and create better engagement. And what, when it comes to the view, what it looks like, it looks better than a regular video that many people see. So you can write your CTAs right on top of it. That's when we're talking about manual use of Instagram. Now, when we talk about automated use of Instagram, we're talking about using Buffer, or we're using Jarvee, which are free to use to some degree, and afterwards they start cost money because they're freemium versions.
Yeah.
But Jarvee, for example, which I like very much, is helps you in automating your feed and templates. So you can set like a generic thing to people and change that message every 5 minutes, or like every 5 days, or whatever. And then it creates the sense of feel that you do watch and like posts, and whichever. You can follow and unfollow people with Jarvee, and you can even send direct messages to people who have engaged with your content. All the largest brands use it. All the micro influencers use it. Hardly anyone that has 5,000 followers and up actually engages with people manually. The trouble with it is that if you do have so many people that you engage with, is how do you transform them into clients? Because just because someone liked your post doesn't mean they're going to sign up for your app. So you would need to create some kind of manual plan structure to talk to these people. So this is like the automation tools that you can use. You can use Jarvee, you can use Buffer, and others. Some of them are better, some of them are worse. You should really try out and see which one works best for you. Just don't overuse them, because if Instagram finds out that you have completely automated your feed, they'll kick you out of Instagram and your app will be done for.
Yeah, I think that's something very important. And for the people that are right now just tuning in, we actually just talked about first of all the previous webinar that we did on app marketing in general. Then we kind of jumped into we kind of gave a glimpse of why app marketing is important on Facebook and Instagram, and got a little bit deeper into it and started talking about the branding aspect of it, where we also defined why branding is that important. And right now we're at the section where we're talking about using the various tools that the manual tools of especially Instagram, and the automation tools. I think especially the automation tools, what people need to realize, because I use Buffer myself, it's an awesome tool. And I think what people need to always keep in the back of their mind, they need to always engage with people, because pushing out content is one thing. Like reaching out to folks, that's actually the heavier part, because the automation makes it easy, but the heavier part is really kind of tapping into, okay, what is it that people really appreciate? Because I think in the beginning, when you're pushing out content, you're just kind of winging it as to, hey, I am pretty sure this is what people want. But until people actually validate it, not just by a like, but maybe by a comment or resharing it, like you mentioned, only then it's really like, yeah, I think I got my story straight and the people understand it, they grasp it. Yeah, so that is where we are right now. Um, AJ, you prepared a case study. Take us through it.
Okay. So the case study is entitled Paid Ads versus Organic Marketing. Many people, when we talk about paid ads and organic marketing, I'll give you a walkthrough for it. So organic means that you don't pay for it. It works by itself. The exposure, viral marketing, whichever kind of trend it takes, is completely organic. It means you didn't pay for it. You didn't have to pay anyone to do something for you. It just worked on its own. There are many aspects to organic marketing. It could be email marketing is a type of organic marketing. Even if you pay for sending email, it still isn't like paid ads. Using Facebook, using Instagram, using everything that doesn't cost money to push your content or push your marketing content or your brand content in general. Paid ads are, well, it's self-explanatory. Either use AdWords, Facebook ads, Twitter ads, LinkedIn ads, display ads like through Rev content or whichever kind of platform you're using. These all are paid ads. So the case study talks about whether or not brands that are only starting out should be using paid ads to begin with, or should they go organic. I always say go organic, even if you are a large brand. But let's talk about why. Facebook changed its business,
Algorithm.
yeah, its algorithm and its business model a couple of times. Ads are more expensive these days, even on Facebook, which is generally cheaper than using Facebook, than using AdWords, still isn't as cheap as it used to be. So if you're a small business that doesn't have a lot of money for what they call media budget, you should go organic. Because if you're, especially if you want people to download your app or go to your event or whichever, it's going to cost you a good few hundreds of dollars every single week to do so. And we all know that indie devs are just broke. They can't
Yeah.
afford it. They don't have $2,000, $5,000 for for ads for people to download their apps. So they have to go organic. So organic here means that, as I said, you're not paying for it. So this case study was for an event. I wanted to see if people are going to sign up for that event. The former event I actually promoted. I used paid ads and I didn't get a single sign up based on it. It could have been the targeting. I don't think it was the targeting. I just think that because it was summertime, many people need to go to events. It was just super expensive. But the other event, I got many signups for it because I went completely organic. I went organic on Instagram. Every person that followed or liked a video, I contacted, via direct messaging, asked them, like download this or go to the event or whichever. And some of them answered. The people that answered, I asked them a couple of questions. I just became friendlier with them. I established a relationship with these people. I gained their trust. Trust is super important if you want people to sign up for an event or if you want them to download an app, whichever the case is. And I got like 3 or 5 times as many signups as I expected to receive because of it. impression-wise, I had tons of people following my content. We're talking about a daily reach of 3,000 or 4,000 people via organic means only. So it was content, it was resharing content, reposting content on Facebook, on Instagram, on Twitter, on LinkedIn, whichever the case was, I brought people in. When I did it through paid ads, I had to pay tons of money for it. First of all, LinkedIn, super expensive and irrelevant, completely irrelevant for app developers. Don't even bother going there. It's relevant for business to business only and
Yeah.
not for apps. Not for apps. It's great for events in general if you have the money for it. If it's a small event like a meetup, don't even bother promoting it via LinkedIn. You're going to pay at the very least around $30 for a single click. That's like insane. So 100 clicks would cost you $3,000. That's like ridiculously expensive. Even if you get the rate down, it's going to be like $2,500 or $2,000, which you just can't afford it, especially if you want people to download your app. On Twitter, it was also expensive, not as expensive as LinkedIn, still super relevant. Many people saw it. The reach was amazing, but not a single event registration. So it's very hard to take people from Twitter, especially because it's so bot ridden, even worse than Instagram. And like make them register, make them sign up. So don't use Twitter to get people to sign up for an event or download your app. Use it for retargeting and remarketing. It is great for that, but it's not good for bringing people into an event. It's great for exposure, not more than that. Exposure, PR, it's amazing. Facebook wasn't relevant, and Instagram wasn't relevant when it came to promotion. So the only thing that was relevant here was using organic means only. Even email marketing didn't work, which is surprising, but it just meant that the event wasn't relevant for the people on your list. So your segmentation has to be super like pinpoint accurate. If you want people to sign up for an event, you need to make sure that people are engaged with your content at all times. You should clean your list frequently, every time, and make sure that it looks amazing. So we're talking about 300 or 400 people that I contacted personally, all of them through Instagram, which was amazing. About 20% answered, 20% like engaged with what I wrote them, and six or seven people registered for the event, and so we're talking about 5 or 10% CTR, which is amazing. And again, we're talking about using manual means to engage with people. Naturally, when it comes to doing the same thing for apps, you would need a much larger audience. But even for apps can get to the point that people download the app if they use Product Hunt, if they use Instagram, they use Facebook, and if they talk to people. You have to engage with the people that engaged with your content. Don't expect them to do anything just because they engaged with your content before. You have to just drive them into doing more actions. Because if people are on Instagram, they want to stay on Instagram. They don't want to go to an event. They don't want to download an app. So you have to make sure that your content is super relevant for them, and it's in their in their best interest to join your event or download your app, because they're going to lose something if they don't come. So I contacted indie developers to come to an event for indie developers.
Yeah.
And once they registered for the event on Facebook, I contacted them again via Facebook inviting them to register. Once they registered, I knew that it's relevant for them.
Yeah. Yeah, and actually, while we're talking, I'm basically broadcasting everything to everybody. I think right now, just shared on LinkedIn, just shared on Instagram separately. So we're about to really share all of this content to through multiple channels.
Exactly.
And yeah, and that is what it's all about. And exactly what you're actually explaining is that people need to know it is it is a marathon where you really need to, okay, I've put forth, I've pushed out the content. What are people saying about it? And one thing that a lot of entrepreneurs miss is that not because somebody said something negative means that it's wrong or something like that. It just means that you need to fine tune it a little bit more, a little bit better. And I think people have a bit of a thin skin these days where they're like, yeah, but a lot of people said this didn't work or whatever. The thing is, you got to look through you can say the negativity and try to see if you can you can take some constructive feedback from it. So I think for right now, what are the top 5 moves on Facebook and then on Instagram that you would recommend to developers or entrepreneurs or both?
Okay, awesome. That's a great question. So first of all, as I said, when it comes to branding, even before you launch your product, whichever product it is, whether it's an app, it's a website, whatever it is, you need to start early on, 3, 4, 5, 6 months. Create conviction between people, create your audience, create recognition for your brand. You don't
Yeah,
have to, give it a name, or you don't have to give it a logo, but ask people what they think. Would you use this app? Would you play this game? Does it look nice? Even just, like if it's a game, for example, just like show them like a rough sketch of something and don't say anything. See what kind of feedback you get from people. If people ask questions, people might not ask questions, organically on the post itself, but they might contact you in private and ask questions. If people ask questions, it means it interests them. You have to engage with these people all the time, whether it's on Facebook, whether it's on Instagram. So this is first. So it's the branding that you create. Then you create either the logo or you create your website behind it. It doesn't really matter. What matters is the content, the storytelling. You have to create storytelling, not just to ask questions, but like talk about the journey. How you got to the point that you decided to create this kind of I don't know, like this connects contractors all over the world for like small renovation jobs in
hmm,
America, whatever. Why? How did you get to this point? How it helps people? Why people should use it? Who is it for? Things like that. This is the brand part of the branding again. And then you market it. Once you get to the point that people are interested in it, you ask them, okay, start by registering to our newsletter. Follow my feed, follow my lead, follow this, follow my stories, whichever the case is, you do
yeah,
that. Uh, Afterwards, you have to engage with these people who already registered. Don't let them go cold. Be in touch with them every single week. Ask them to join a webinar. Ask them to ask questions. Invite them for a launch event, whichever the case is. Do that. You have to engage with your peeps. And the last thing is naturally sales and post sales. You know, once people registered or once people signed up and you offer them something, you can offer them like 15% off something if they buy this, whichever the case is. You, and then ask for testimonials. Testimonials are super important for your brand in the future because if people say, for example, that Dyson is amazing, Dyson is amazing. Most people say the Dyson is amazing and no one ever used the Dyson before.
Yeah.
But you see Dyson V10 everywhere, and it's a
Yeah.
super expensive vacuum cleaner. I haven't used it. I saw it only at you know, a friend's house, and it looked great. And I want one myself, and it's like super expensive. But people buy it. People buy it because testimonials and the brand are amazing. The brand behind it is amazing. People see it and they say, "Wow, it's amazing."
Yeah.
And you do the same thing on Facebook and you do the same thing on Instagram. But the most important thing is to understand that Instagram and Facebook are different.
Yes.
People won't be reading super long posts on Instagram the same way they do it on Facebook. You should use the filters correctly. You should choose your colors correctly. And this is Slava Dobreva already talked about it. You know, the branding,
Yeah.
probably know her. And she already talked about it, you know, using the filters and creating a filter that, you know, corresponds with the colors of your brand, your color palette. So if it's blue, you should use a blue filter because then people recognize that it's your part of your brand recognition. So Instagram is a little different here because it has to be short and sweet, and
Yeah.
you can use slang terms more than you use on Facebook. But again, unless it's part of your brand, don't use profanity. Okay? The larger brands can't afford to use profanity unless it's part of the brand, you know, the brand's voice in general.
Yeah.
And LinkedIn is a little more conservative than both Facebook and Instagram, but it is getting better at storytelling. Storytelling on LinkedIn is super important. So you should be using LinkedIn even as an indie developer because once you get to the point that people download your apps, people use them, you start making money, then you create something a little larger than just an indie studio. You create a larger studio, you create a brand, a larger brand behind that brand. And you have to use that to create a better wrap. Okay, a better wrapper for it. You need to create some kind of dome where you put everything inside that dome. Create a roof on top of, you know, this whole package. Create a packaging for it.
Yeah.
So again, you need to find your own brand's voice. It takes time. You can talk to us. You can talk to me. You can talk to Guillaume. We can guide you through that. You know, creating your voice and tone, what you are, what you want to do, what you want to do in the future. Pivoting is super important. You can start out as something and you know, end up as something else. Changing the name, whichever the case is, people do it all the time. The largest brands do it here. It's not called AdWords anymore. It's called Google Ads. They
Yeah.
decided to rebrand it as Google Ads, and it works. And it
Yeah.
works.
And I think what people what people need to, I think one key thing that people need to take away from this is that you can say marketing, branding, and sales, they kind of go hand in hand like three best friends,
Exactly.
because one can't go without the other. Because if you have a crappy story, you don't get too many sales.
Exactly.
So it all of it kind of goes hand in hand, which is, if you think about it in hindsight, it kind of makes sense. But starting out, it's always a bit of a why does this fit with that, and how do I get this with that? So it's always kind of puzzling when you're still in the beginning, still trying to figure things out. For people that want to know more about app marketing for their respective app, what do they need to know about AJ?
Okay. So, well, I started out when it comes to apps in general. I served as a VP marketing for a mobile producer about 4 years ago. I'm actually relaunching a new brand, which is called Appenue. It's a game producer again. We're launching our new title. It's still in beta mode. Naturally, I'm not going to promote it here, so I'm not even going to say its name. If you want, you can follow my feed, and that's about it. Uh, I've been working in marketing and business development for the past decade or so, and just a second. That's it. So that's the problem. You go inside a meeting, you do a webinar, and people leave their cell phones, around. Happens all the time. So, again, so about me, VP marketing at Hits an App. It was a game producer, now defunct. We had a couple of good titles back in the day. Today, I run Appenue. I've been running Appenue since 2015. Appenue actually started as a mobile monetization company. We had a solution called Active, which was for source codeless apps, for running ads. We made a pivot about a year afterwards and went through social media marketing, which I did immensely for Hits and that back in the day. And then we pivoted again, and today we do boutique marketing and business consulting for both SMEs and startups, mostly startups, app developers, things like that, e-commerce. We've been doing this for the past 3 years or so, 3 years as an agency, and I've been doing it for about a decade now. And whatever the problem is, we're there to help you. Even if it's storytelling, it's the voice and tone, it's creating a marketing strategy, creating a sales strategy. Many people want to start selling when they don't even have a product to sell, or they launch a product, but nobody knows what it is, so no one's going to buy from it. And that's the main problem that entrepreneurs face every day, the lack of structure. So we're there to create a structure for you guys. This is what we do here at Appenue.
All right. Okay. And from my side, basically anything pertaining to apps, I can hook you up with AJ, and then we'll combine all our powers to make your app a absolutely amazing success. So with that being said, are there some other things that you want to highlight of Appenue, or you want people to leave a comment below?
Well, I'd rather people ask questions than me expecting them, expecting to answer something which I don't know what they want to ask. But I think they watch the webinar and they have questions now. So whoever wants to ask a question, now's the time. And if it's something you want to talk to about in private, we can, hop on a call or something like that at your earliest convenience and just do it.
All right. Okay. Right now, whoever has a question, just let her rip. I think Natasha is also still tuned in. Natasha, do you have any questions? Let's see. Yes. Okay, I don't think Natasha has a question yet, but anybody is able to send over their questions, remarks, and anything they might have. Like I said, also sharing bits and pieces of the webinar on Instagram, on LinkedIn, and everywhere we are. So yeah, and if you have questions, if you have remarks, comments, just let her rip. And also, if you have suggestions on topics that you want to know about, let us know, and we'll try to dive into that ASAP.
Yep.
All right, I think that's about it for this webinar. From my side, all the way from Amsterdam, signing out. And this is AJ. Do you have some closing words?
Yeah. Create a structure for yourself, and every launch would be better.
All right.
Structure is the most important thing.
Okay.
I'm talking to us naturally. You can always talk to us about.
All right. And on that note, both of us signing out, and have an amazing Thursday.